Hey there, and welcome. Have you ever just stared at a loaf of artisan bread, a really gorgeous one, and thought, how in the world do they do that? Well, if you have, you're in exactly the right place. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain and really demystify the art and the science behind making that perfect loaf right in your own kitchen. Let's get into it. So when we say perfect, what are we really even talking about? Well, you know the one. It's that loaf you see in a fancy bakery window. It's standing tall. It's got this beautiful color, this amazing pattern. It's basically a work of art. But it is so much more than just how it looks, right? It's the whole experience, from that sound it makes when you slice into it to the incredible texture when you take that first bite. And that whole experience, it really just boils down to two things. You've got the crust and you've got the crumb. The crust, that's got to be that deep golden brown, super crispy, and it has to make that amazing crackling sound. And then there's the inside, the crumb. You want that to be light, open, full of those beautiful random holes. That's what tells you you've got a fantastic bread. You master these two things, and you've pretty much mastered the perfect loaf. Okay, so let's start from the outside in. Secret number one is all about getting that incredible crust. And the key here might actually surprise you. It's not an ingredient you mix into the dough. It's an element you add to your oven. We're talking about steam. Now, to really get why steam is so important, we have to talk about this amazing thing called oven spring. This is that super dramatic final puff up the dough does the second it hits the heat of the oven. Getting the most out of this moment, this is everything. It's the difference between a big, beautiful, light loaf and, a dense, sad little brick. So how do we get the best oven spring we possibly can? Well, you do it by creating a humid, steamy environment for the first part of the bake. This is the big secret that pro bakers use, and it's actually way easier to do at home than you might think. You just have to trap that steam. And just look at the difference steam makes. It is night and day. On the left, with steam, the surface of the dough stays moist and stretchy, so it can expand to its absolute fullest potential. That's how you get that huge loaf with a shiny, crackly crust. But without steam, like on the right, that dry oven air just instantly forms a hard shell. It basically traps the dough, stops it from rising, and you end up with a dense, kind of squat loaf with a dull crust. The power of a little H2O is undeniable. So the big question, how do you do this at home? Well, the easiest, most effective way is with a Dutch oven. It basically acts like your own personal steam injection oven. You just preheat the pot right along with your oven, then you carefully drop your dough inside. Now, for the first 20 minutes, you bake with the lid on. This is key. It traps all the moisture coming off the dough, creating that perfect steaming bubble for a massive oven spring. Then, you just pop the lid off to finish it off and get that deep, beautiful golden color. It's that simple. All right, so we've totally nailed the crust. Now let's move inside the loaf. Secret number two is all about getting that light, open, airy crumb we all want. And if steam was the secret weapon for the crust, then water inside the dough is the secret to the crumb. We're talking about a concept called dough hydration. And don't worry, it's not complicated. It's just the amount of water in your dough compared to the amount of flour, and we talk about it as a percentage. So say you have 1,000 grams of flour and 750 grams of water. Boom, you've got a 75% hydration dough. And the general rule of thumb is pretty simple. More water equals bigger holes and a more open crumb. And if you want to see this idea taken to the absolute extreme, just look at this. This is a Spanish bread called pan de cristal, which means glass bread, and it is a perfect example. This thing is almost 90% water, and that's what creates that insane see-through crumb. But, as you can probably guess, a dough with that much water feels more like a thick batter, which makes it super sticky and honestly a real pain to handle. So how on earth do professional bakers get all the benefits of that super high hydration without having to deal with a soupy, sticky nightmare? Well, they use this really clever pro technique called double hydration. And let me tell you, this is a total game changer if you want to start pushing your hydration levels. So here's how it works. Instead of dumping all the water in at once, you actually hold some of it back. You mix the dough at a lower, much more manageable hydration first, which lets you build up a really strong gluten network. Then, once the dough is nice and strong, you slowly mix in the rest of the water. This little trick lets you get to a super high final hydration, but the dough stays manageable. And the results? An incredibly open crumb and an amazing thin crust. Okay, so we've built all this amazing potential into our dough. We've got steam on standby for a massive oven spring, and we've got high hydration ready to create that beautiful open crumb. The final step? The final touch is to control all that power. And that is where scoring comes in.
Now, a lot of people think scoring is just about making your bread look pretty. And yeah, it does, but that's not its main job. Its real purpose is all about function. When you slice the top of the dough, you're creating a weak spot on purpose. You're basically telling the bread, hey, expand right here, during that explosive oven spring. If you don't score it, that pressure is just going to build up and the bread will burst open wherever it feels like it. The best way to think about scoring is in two parts. First, you've got your essential cut. This is your main, deep slash that's going to guide the big expansion and really give the loaf its shape. This is what lets it open up and get that beautiful ear. Then you can add your smaller, shallower, decorative cuts. They're all about that artistic flair, but they don't really change the structure of the loaf. And if you want to get that perfect score every single time, here are a few pro tips. 1. Always score your dough when it's cold, straight from the fridge. The firm surface is so much easier to cut cleanly. You'll also want a really sharp, razor-thin blade. Bakers call it a lame, so you don't drag the dough. And when you make the cut, be quick and confident. And hey, if you're chasing that beautiful, crispy ear that lifts up, the trick is to score at about a 45-degree angle. So there you have it. Those are the 3 core secrets to truly incredible bread. We've talked about using steam for the perfect crust, managing hydration for that beautiful crumb, and using scoring to control the final shape. Now, let's just put it all together one last time. You can really think of this as the baker's equation. It all connects. Steam controls the crust formation, which gives you that amazing volume and that golden, crispy finish. Hydration controls the crumb structure, giving you that light, airy inside. And scoring, that controls the dough's expansion, which means you get a controlled rise and a beautiful final shape. Each piece has its own job, but together, they create that perfect loaf. So by understanding these core principles, you're not just following a recipe anymore. You are in control. You can play with the steam, you can adjust the hydration, you can design your own scoring patterns. So I guess the only question left is, what kind of masterpiece are you gonna go bake next?